Kingscreek is a horror podcast, and thus the content in this episode may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
You are now entering Kingscreek. Episode 12, Lunacy.
Welcome back, everyone. I've been diving into the files, trying to find more on Crimson Apothecaries, but I haven't had a ton of luck. For all of Uncle Mark's strengths, organization was really not one of them. I'll keep working at it though, and in the meantime, I've got a file here that I've been wanting to share. Today's story is one that caught my interest back when I first found this old archive. It's been sitting in the back of my mind ever since I first read it, and I've been looking forward to reading on the podcast ever since. I would have hoped that I'd have found a name for this show by then, but what can you do? Today's file, Case B67, Lunar Psychiatric Effects, concerns the disappearance of one Clayton George, 17. He was a high school student at the time, and, to put it plainly, a bit of a nerd. Made the honor roll 3 times in a row, voted most likely to become a NASA researcher, and the head of the astronomy club over at Sorensen High. You get the gist. He also lived on Gossamer Lane, interestingly enough. He went missing in May 1990, just about a week before the high school science fair. There were no leads, no indications of where he might have gone. Nothing. It was like he had just disappeared into thin air. This is really surprising, considering the crime scene he left behind and that last known sighting, which I'll get to. Outside of that, the only real piece of evidence in the case with any kind of meat to it is George's science report. In the days before his disappearance, he was working on a project for the previously mentioned science fair, something to do with the phases of the moon. I don't fully understand what the experiment was meant to be, but it does paint a picture of what was going through George's mind before he went missing. Report begins. May 16th, 1990. Introductory statement. The moon and its phases are an important fixture in our culture and in the natural world. As such, there have been many myths, legends, and old wives' tales surrounding it, some of which persist to the modern day. One of these myths is the idea that the lunar phases affect the mental state via some kind of misunderstanding of tides. Supposedly, the idea goes that the moon affects water through tides, and since the human brain is 70% water, then the moon's gravity would affect that water and make people act strangely. In fact, this is where the terms lunacy and lunatic come from. Now, to the untrained, unscientific mind, this seems perfectly logical, but it is obviously not true. I intend to disprove this idea with a simple application of the scientific method. Over the next few nights, I'll be conducting 30-minute sessions of prolonged exposure to the moon's quote-unquote effects. I'll note the phase of the moon and then describe my emotional state to the best of my ability. To make sure I don't exacerbate the supposed effects, I won't be using my telescope. It should be a fun way to spend the next few nights. May 17th, 1990. Day 1. Moon phase. Waning gibbous. There were some clouds out tonight, which is somewhat vexing. I'm not sure whether that would affect the findings at all, but I guess it won't be a huge deal for the ingrates who actually believe this is a real phenomenon. From 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., I sat out in my front yard looking at the moon. Now, despite having an interest in astronomy, I've never given much thought to the Earth's moon. It was always either just a light fixture in the night sky or a nuisance preventing me from getting a good look at Jupiter or Venus, but tonight, as I stared at the giant space rock, I was struck with a feeling I never felt before while observing astronomical bodies. Taking in the moon with the naked eye, I was suddenly reminded that this wasn't just a fixture in the sky. It was a real, truly massive astronomical body held in suspension across from the Earth. And I was far enough away from it to actually see it without the impediment of a telescope or a photo. Truly see it. It was a feeling like no other. But that's not a feeling I describe as affecting my sanity. So far, my hypothesis is holding true. I will update my account tomorrow. May 18th, 1990. Day 2. Moon phase. Waxing gibbous. Small note. Yesterday I noted that the moon's phase was waning rather than waxing. This was incorrect, as today I saw the moon's bright side grow rather than shrink. My apologies. I found myself eager to observe the moon again tonight. Last night's session had stuck in my mind ever since I finished, and I didn't sleep as much as was optimal because I was constantly looking out the window to catch glimpses of the Earth's largest satellite. Now, there's just something I find enamoring about the moon. Tonight didn't do anything to dissuade this fascination. From 10 to 11 p.m., I sat out in my yard looking at Luna. Luna is the true name of the moon, you know, much like how our sun is Sol. And somehow, it feels right to call Luna by its true name. The more I look at it, the more it fascinates me. From just the naked eye, I can see so much of it. Its craters, its plains, the wide seas of cool lava fields. It's almost, in a word, beautiful. This experiment is proving to be incredibly enlightening. I set out to prove that Luna, the Earth's moon, I should say, doesn't have any kind of inherent sanity-affecting qualities. I still believe this to be true, but in the process I have discovered a newfound respect and interest in this incredible astronomical body. I eagerly look forward to the next few nights. May 19th, 1990. Day 3. Moon phase. Waxing gibbous. Out of my entire day, seeing Luna is now the part that I look forward to the most. I spent all of today thinking about it, and when I would catch glimpses of Luna through the window, I would feel almost giddy. I don't quite understand this feeling, but I must say I do welcome it with open arms. When the time actually came to view Luna, I started as soon as possible and was out there until the sun went up. The glowing light on the surface had grown as Luna continued to reach closer and closer to a full moon. I sat in my yard, staring at the most beautiful thing in the sky. You probably already knew that Luna was originally part of Earth, right? Once it was a part of the very ground we walked upon, lived our lives upon. Then, billions of years ago, another planet struck Earth and knocked enough of it off to form Luna. So even though it seems far away, it really is so connected to us, to me, in a way you can never truly understand, though I try. These thoughts ran through my head as I took in Luna's beauty. The craters formed intricate patterns, the cool lava fields painted in wide sweeps across its face, and through it all, the sun's reflected light perfectly bounced off its surface, bathing me and my surroundings in shimmering, heavenly light. It felt like being wrapped in Luna's loving embrace, like I wasn't the one observing her, she was observing me. We were staring into each other. And then I began to hear it. I still hear it, even as I write this down. The singing. It is the sweetest sound that my ears have had the privilege to experience. It's not like a person singing with the human lyrics as harsh tones and the wet slapping of gums and lips, but more ethereal, light, floating music. It felt like the moonlight given voice. A voice unlike anything of this earth. It was so beautiful that it brings tears to my eyes just recalling it. I apologize. I cannot write anymore tonight. The singing is too distracting, and I fear it would affect my results. Perhaps this is a dream that I will wake up from tomorrow. If that is the case, though, I will be sorely disappointed. May 21st, 1990, Day 5, Phase, Waxing Beauty. I apologize for not updating this report yesterday. It seems to be coming low on my list of priorities. Many things I once considered important are revealing themselves to be insignificant in the face of incomparable majesty. I spent all of last night communing with Luna, listening to her song and bathing in her light once more. I have not slept in I don't know how long, and to be quite honest, I don't know if I ever will again. Not at night, anyway. Luna has been keeping me going, bringing me closer and closer to her. Every time I look at her, it's as if she takes up more and more of the sky, a brighter and brighter holy illumination in a world that I cannot believe was ever truly full of light. Can you believe I was supposed to go to school today? What a sick joke that place is. I once thought it a place of knowledge, of understanding, and as such I tried to master it. Now, I know what true understanding is. It is the truth found in the music of Luna. For I have begun to understand her song. Before, it was just a sweet, wordless chorus that, while meaning the world to me, I thought it was without inherent intended meaning. And like many things before, I was incredibly foolish to believe so, because my Luna has started speaking to me through the song. She tells me such wonderful things, stories of all she has seen, hilarious jokes that would make you double over on the floor, and visions she has. Yes, her visions for the future are truly wondrous, and she whispers to me of my part in all of it, of my place in her new world. It brings tears of divine joy to my eyes just thinking about it. But I can't tell anyone. Oh no, certainly not anyone who could stumble across this report. No one who hasn't seen the light of my Luna or wept in her embrace could truly understand it. So I must keep it secret, yes. My parents think I'm sick. I suppose I did mislead them into thinking I was under the weather in order to remain here, but I suspect they know more. Not everything, of course, but I think that they can detect my newfound love, my devotion to my Luna, and this is what they view as sickness. I want to scream in rage just thinking about it, for I know the opposite is true. They are the ones who are sick. The whole world is sick. Sick with the diseases known as ignorance and blasphemy. I cannot blame them, for I used to be among their ranks, even if that seems like a lifetime ago. No, instead of judging, I must help. I must complete my first test. My Luna has done so much for me. Now it is time for me to repay the favor. May 23rd, 1990, Day 7, Phase, Full of Light. It has been done. Tonight, my Luna shone with a brightness I had not yet seen, and her message was as loud as it could be. I was to begin my work, my true work, my calling. I started when night fell, when my Luna was out. I first began by speaking with my father. He is a strong-willed man, so it took some work to convince him. But eventually, there was no other way he could see but my own. Then I spoke to my mother. She could immediately see the remnants of my and my father's conversation all over my face, and that made her more resistant to what I had to say. Eventually, though, she stopped, for she could not find the words to resist what I was saying. All throughout, my Luna's light streamed through the windows, singing and encouraging me as I did my duty. And finally, the only thing left for me to do was to prepare myself. First, I opened the window, allowing the divine light to flow in untempered. Then I moved a chair and sat down to bask in the warmth. The singing was louder than I had ever heard it now, urging me to complete my final task. I didn't need to be asked twice. I removed my top garment, took the implement I had used to negotiate with the believers who had once been my parents, and began to paint myself. I led my implement in wide, paintbrush-esque strokes, my nerves alight by the sensation. The choir grew louder, more demanding, and I obliged their every demand. I was but a canvas for my Luna to dictate the shape and appearance of. We were never more in sync than that moment, and thus we were never as close. It was the most beautiful and meaningful moment of my own pitiful existence, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I wept. And now, here I sit, writing it all down. I felt that this was the best way to end this silly experiment. I set out to find the truth of the matter regarding Luna, and now I have. She is the truth, and her vision of the future is all that I need to understand. And now, I must share it with all, including you. End report. This one was one of the more recent cases Uncle Mark was investigating, so the details were all rather fresh. Clayton George and his family were fairly well known within their neighborhood, so it was a great shock when they seemingly disappeared around May 24th, 1990. For 2 days, no one saw them anywhere, not at regular neighborhood association/PTA meetings, not at their various jobs and schools, not even out taking a walk, all places you could find them regularly. Then, on the third day, a police officer was sent over to their house to investigate, only to find a blood-soaked house, and both Mr. and Mrs. George had been murdered, stabbed to death, and then mutilated. Mr. George had both his eyes crudely cut out, and Mrs. George's tongue was gone. Clayton was missing, but he seemingly didn't get out unscathed. His blood was all over as well, though most of it pooled around a chair in the front room facing the window. Other than that, however, there were no traces of him to be found. No bloody footprints, no signs of forced exit, and the family's 2 cars were both in the driveway. There weren't even any fingerprints on the murder weapon, a crude kitchen knife that was noted to shimmer when the sunlight hit it right. It was like Clayton had outright disappeared. Now, as disturbing and tragic as this story is, it's pretty easy to rule it out as just a particularly nasty case of religious psychosis without any kind of supernatural elements. But a few things make me think that there is something else here. First and foremost, Uncle Mark left a lot of indentations on this file. Pretty much every mention of Luna and the singing is underlined or circled, and there are a lot of notes referencing case B15, so that's something to follow up on, I guess. Secondly, I managed to find a copy of a moon phases calendar from May of 1990. You would expect it to line up with this report, but the opposite is true. All throughout the week, from May 16th to May 23rd, the moon was waning. As in, the shape of the moon was getting darker and darker, smaller and smaller, so the events described in George's report couldn't have happened how he described it. But it does mean that May 24th, the eve of the new moon, lines up with his last known sighting. At 1:45 a.m. on May 24th, 2 days before the police would find what remained of the Georges, one of their neighbors saw Clayton run out into the street. He was nude, yelling, and covered head to toe in horrible cuts. Cuts that seemed to form words, but not in any alphabet that the witness could name. Then, there was a flash so bright that the witness had to shut their eyes, and when they looked back, Clayton had vanished. It was completely dark, with only the stars and streetlights providing any illumination. After that, Clayton George was never seen again. I'm not really sure what to make of this. There are so many questions. What happened to Clayton George? And why didn't the witness report what they saw before questioning? Maybe I'm a prude, but I feel like a yelling naked teenager covered in blood disappearing in a flash of light is something that you would at least tell someone about before there was an active murder case. And how is the moon connected to all of it? I don't know any of the answers. And on top of that, this doesn't help me at all with the main investigation. I've been digging through these files for days, and I just haven't found anything specific. At this rate, I'd be better off just snooping around the town myself. Actually, now that I think about it, that's not a bad idea. This is Damien Bachman signing off.
Today's episode of Kingscreek was written and performed by Thomas S. Dennis. It was produced by James Makepeace, and the score was composed by Kai After Kai. Script supervision is provided by James Makepeace and Ryan Kennedy. Our cover art is by CyberGrapeUK, and our social media manager is Ryan Kennedy. All episodes are a production of Tracer Magnum Entertainment. If you'd like to support the show, rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, or whatever service you use to listen to our show. It helps tremendously and ensures we're seen by more and more of the unsuspecting public. If you'd like to get in touch with us or become involved with the community, join our Discord server, post on the r/Kingscreek subreddit, or follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr, all under the handle @KingscreekOfficial. Share with your friends, family, or anyone else you want to ensnare in our web. And above all else, thank you for listening.